Amici, andiamo alla Israele, רבי שמעון בן רחל, בשם החברה קדישא, בשם משפחתך וידידיך, בשם כל אלו שבאו לחלוק לך את הכבוד האחרון, שמה טעינו ולא עשינו לך את הכבוד הראוי לך, לחייך ואין במחלתך, ואין בטהרתך ואין בערבך. הנצרך לנו כשגגאי, אנו מבקשים לך מחילה, ואנו אומרים לך, תגידו איתי ביחד, מחולה, 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 שאולה, 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 תרלה, 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 בעולם הזה ובעולם הבא, ונתמר דעת המילה. אנו מפטרים אותך להיות חבר בכל חברה ואגודה אנושית, לשלום ותנוח לשלום על משכבך, תעמוד לגורלך לקץ הימים. מסע לבאצת מכאן לכיוון חלקת הקבר ליד אשתו המנוחה, זיכרונה לברכה. אנחנו מגיעים להר המנוחות. בכניסה להר המנוחות יש בודקה של שומר באמצע הכביש, אנחנו עוברים אותו בערך 50 מטר ופונים שמאלה. זה נקרא שער יוסף, אנחנו ניסע לאט ונחכה לכם שם בסיבוב. שלום.
Ino Adonai Eloheinu Aleinu Malkeinu Shkoden Aleinu
Oh my gosh, it's been so long. Oh my god. Morat, Michelle. Because I can't do it. My children do it to me. Oh my gosh. Oh my. Yeah. It's over here. Yep. Right side of the whole stuff. But big alarm. Really, really. Yeah.
First time.
So broad. What? So broad. It's behind the person with the red shirt and the gun is behind him, and it's a little less Mordecai Timber. Black behind him. Behind his family. That's right.
בשם המשפחה, אנחנו רוצים להודות לכולם שהגיעו. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming to spend a few final moments with our father, grandfather, husband, and so much more, Rebbe, beloved David Yehiel Adler. Thank you for spending time with us here. Run the show.
Thank you all for being here today. As we honor the life and memory of my grandfather, David Yehiel ben Eliezer of Beliva, Zichrono Livrocha, may his memory be a blessing. Before we begin, we kindly ask everyone to please place their phones on silent. We will now hear from members of the family and those closest to him, who will share words of love, remembrance, and tribute. We begin with the beloved wife, Shulamis, who will share a few words.
I just want to say something. I didn't really think, so I appreciate that you offered for me to speak. I think it goes without words how much David and I loved each other. After we were together, we forged the most beautiful life, the most wonderful children. It's okay. It's okay. I'm not going to speak. That's the basic thing. So I know it's hard to keep me quiet, but the loss is.
I'd now like to invite his son and my father, Moshe, to come forward and speak.
Okay, I apparently will be speaking. Okay. My father had sentences well known in the family. One of them was no long hespedim. And a second one was, give me a week, I'll speak for 5 minutes. Give me 5 minutes, I'll speak for an hour. You kind of put me in a bind, Abba, with the steerer here. I didn't get a week, and no one here wants me talking for an hour. You always loved Dylan Thomas, though perhaps less so than Bob Dylan. And so I expected you'd rage against the dying of the light. Alas, sic transit gloria mundi. You were also a naturally gentle person, and gently is how you went. Peacefully, and so quickly, I didn't get to make it to the hospital to say goodbye. I'm not used to speaking off the cuff. At my own bar mitzvah, I arrogantly wanted to speak without notes, and you kept me from that, thank goodness. Today, you're not here to stop me or help me with any pointers, and so I'm left with this sort of stream of consciousness that I put together this afternoon. In general, I know, and I apologize, that I wasn't always the easiest son growing up, and that's putting it mildly. ADHD, CPTSD. I was the kid no one wanted to go to the parents-teacher meeting night for. I could be a real brat at times. But once I grew out of making smart aleck comments, such as one time I remember I smart aleckly pointed out that in Kelohenu, the first words came out to Ein mi nodeh baruch ata, to which he calmly replied, well, how about that it's the Roshei Tevot for Amen Ba? Fortunately, Abba always had patience for my smart aleckiness, and I tried to at least make up for it in adulthood, and hopefully I gave you nachas in your later years. I know you were very happy with my choice of wife, and had nachas being the Masada Kiddushin for our wedding. And maybe some nechama as well, what with its happening less than 3 months after your own father's death. I know you were then incredibly moved to be the Masada Kiddushin for Tvir and Adi as well, just a few short months ago. You always shept so much nachas from my younger boys as well, and marveled over their intellect and their Gemara shekafs. And Shalhevet just got her penultimate grade for her bachelor's last night. It was a course on Rav Soloveitchik's philosophy, and she was telling me at the hospital this afternoon how much she'd enjoyed the material. And all I could think of was how much Abba would have loved talking to her about it. But in the end, I know that somewhere he knows, and is probably telling the Rav about it personally right now. At Shiloh's bar mitzvah, Abba quoted from the Zohar that says that at times of great simcha, the neshama comes back to be with us in this world. Right now, we're deep in our mourning, and simcha seems a million miles away. We're here, and Abba's in Olam Shekulo Tov. But this too shall pass, and we look forward to having you at our future simchas, Abba. For now, rest well in a well, and I bid you farewell with love and respect till we meet again, hopefully at Kriyat HaMetim, which should be the Miravi Amenu.
I'd now like to invite his son, Norm, to share his words of love and memory.
I sat down today at the desk to put down a few thoughts. And as I sat down, I took out this little pintas and I put it down on the desk, and to put it down, I needed to move Abba's laptop out of the way. And it suddenly struck me, you know, you're sitting down to write down whatever little chachma or little regesh that you're going to write down at this moment, and you're moving aside this unknown trove of whatever was on Abba's mind in order to do it. So that was just a little moment of starting this. Growing up, as Moshe said, Moshe was a smart aleck sometimes. I wasn't a smart aleck. Sometimes I clowned around at the wrong time. I have it officially. That's what my Mempei wrote on my ha'aracha for whether I should be an officer in the IDF or not. He wrote, he's a good soldier, but sometimes he's a bit of a clown at the wrong moments. And so one of the things, and I'm sharing some things that Abba taught me that there are moments to be a clown and there are moments not to be a clown. There are moments to laugh and moments not to laugh. And anyone who Abba married, such as myself, myself and Lali and myself and Yifi, knows that the Abba had a rule that there are no jokes under the chuppah. Sound familiar, some of you? He was dead serious about that. I've been to many levayas with Abba as well. And he did not have that same rule for levayas. And indeed, any one of you who's ever been to an Ebner levaya knows that it's an acquired taste and a little bit different. And Abba loved to hear us laugh when appropriate. Of course, the hardest thing in life is knowing when the right time to laugh is, when it is appropriate to be a clown, when it's not. Abba taught me also that often it's the hardest times in life that spawns the funniest moments. If you've heard his stories of being in the army, then you know all army funny stories are from being in the worst place in the world in the hardest time, and someone says the funniest thing, like when Abba's mefaked asked him, "So Ebner, we set up this whole new chayil. What do you want to do?" And they set up Pikud Aref, and he said, "I don't want to do anything." I said, "Why not?" And he says, "Listen, I use my brain. That's what I do. That's what I do." And it's clear to me after spending a day in this chayil that there is no room for that. And so I don't want to do anything. It took him another 2 or 3 years to get out of the army, of course. The one thing I learned from Abba more than anything is to show up. I live in Jacksonville, Florida. A lot of people over the past 3 weeks that I've spent here have said things to me like, "Oh, you come and you spend so much time with your Abba. So wonderful." And I'm practicing letting people compliment me even though I want to correct them, but here's the big correction. I learned it all from him. Abba taught me that the one way to show love is that you just always show up. And so, raising us as a single parent, he was at every parents' teachers meeting, even Moshe's. And whenever one of us was hurt or in the hospital or injured in the army, he would always show up no matter where it was, no matter if he had the right security clearance or how did he even know that we were injured. You would open your eyes and there he would be by your bed until you were either released from there or he took you out of there because the army wasn't treating you well enough as he did for me. And he showed me the same thing in Jacksonville. My father and I, Abba, we live very different lifestyles in some way. When I moved to Jacksonville, Abba showed up. He showed up, and Abba and I together figured out how a fully functioning Rabbi and a fully non-functioning or non-Rabbi's son could live together in the same house. He could eat his food, and I could eat mine. I could cook food for him and enjoy it, and we could enjoy each other's company for weeks at a time without anything at all getting in the way, and he would always show up. He was supposed to show up one last time. He was. My children were waiting for him, my wife was waiting for him, Anakin was waiting for him, the one dog Abba ever loved. for the past 10 years, or before I'll say that, that is 90% of my parenting is showing up. Ask my kids. They will say, Abba, you don't do much when you show up. But I'm there. I always knew that when Abba was on his deathbed, there was one question I wanted to ask him. That sounds kind of morbid, and I don't ordinarily think about deathbed questions for people. I wanted to ask him, Abba, in the end, the person you were, the good person you were, the righteous person, the caring, the kind, the loving person who hated everything that was mushrat and loved everything that was beautiful, whether it's beautiful in the arts, or beautiful in the soul, or beautiful in the mind. Was it for God, or was it for just being a good person? What was it about? Was it about God, or being a mensch? And there I was with Abba on his deathbed. And I was with him for a long time on his deathbed. And I knew it, and he knew it, and we spoke about it. And I never asked him. But I never asked him on purpose. Because as I spent time with him on his deathbed, and we would discuss things like Dylan Thomas, and I'd say, Abba, you're about to know whether it's true. Is it true that when you're on your deathbed and you feel the lights dimming, do you rage against the dying of the light? Or do you go quietly into the night? It's nice poetry, but now you're going to know it. Then maybe you can write a better poem about it. And I learned from him that he didn't rage against the dying of the light. He raged against the dying of the mind. We all know that. But death didn't bother him. It wasn't that. And so, when I'm with him on his deathbed and I wondered, is this the moment to ask him? I realized I already knew the answer. And that is that for Abba, it was about God, and it was about being a mensch equally. Derech Eretz Kadma Torah, and Torah without Derech Eretz is nothing. And it all fits together for Abba. Asking him the question as an either or would be to tell my father, Abba, I didn't understand you. I didn't get it. And in not asking him that question, and in looking at you now, Abba, and saying, damn, I get it. Thank you. Thank you for this. Thank you for everything you've taught me. Thank you for teaching me to show up and letting me have this time with you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be the son and the man and the father I want to be, who can come, throw stuff aside, and just show up and make up for 10 years in 3 weeks. I felt that way. I think he felt that way. Thank you, Abba. You were awesome.
I now call upon his daughter, Estherly, to speak in honor of her dear father.
It's Elul. It's Chodesh Elul. And the fish are trembling in the sea. That's what Abba would tell his Talmidim every opening sikha, beginning of every year in the yeshiva. It's Elul, and the fish are trembling in the sea. Abba was a giant of Torah and had a brilliant mind. Others, mostly his Talmidim, can attest to that. But with me, from an early age, Abba preferred to learn Chassidus, something he did later in his life with many Talmidim. I remember a Shavuos night, many years ago, when I was around Ayala's age today, that Abba first taught me about Rabbi Nachman and about the Nitzotzot scattered around the world and deep inside each and every one of us. He spoke of Rabbi Nachman's suffering and how he knew, really knew, something about pain and about depression and about life. Like some people memorize baseball statistics, Abba had an uncanny memory for the lineage of Rebbe's and the most beautiful way of telling over a Hasidic story. Anyone who had the zchut to visit him in the last few weeks heard really, really good stories. Abba, you suffered much in life. You endured much. You raised us 3 children all on your own, in a world in which that was never the norm. Without knowing that you were preparing me for my own life and trials, you exemplified what the word responsibility really means. What it means to show up for the people who need you. What it means to not take your eye off the ball. In the past years, you repeatedly told me, your first responsibility is always to your children. And my 3 beautiful children, they became like your children. You supported each and every one of them in their talents and their strengths in times of pain and in difficulty. And you were the most constant figure in their lives. You always put their interests first. You always came through for them. Abale, you taught me so much, you taught me everything. But you didn't teach me how to live without you. Abba didn't tend to give us children praise, not to our faces, maybe behind our backs. I remember the one conversation with him less than a year after Abba passed. And he told me on the phone, he said, Esterly, I've known thousands of parents, and I can tell you that what you've done for your kids this year, the way you've managed to carry through their torment, no one else could have done that. And they couldn't have prospered the way they did without that. Sadie was so, so proud of the 3 of you. Luli's Chazara brought him so much joy. So much joy even in the hospital. Since November, Abba suffered unbearable pain. And still he pushed through. He took care of his beautiful and beloved Shalabis. But the past month was just too much. And Abba's body was ravaged with pain and with cancer. And he understood, like Noam said, he understood that he was dying. Thank you, Abba, for speaking to us about death, for letting us carry some of that burden for you like you always carry for us. Thank you for bringing Noam, Moshe, and I close together these past weeks. It was a zchut for all of us to show up for you, just as you would always show up for us. Abba loved Torah, and he loved the Kadosh Baruch Hu, and he loved his Talmidim. He always said that he had tricked everyone in life because he managed to find a job where they paid him for doing exactly what he loved. In the name of all of us, I want to thank Abba's Talmidim, Hakruyim, Banim, who did everything they could to ease his suffering. David Rosenstein, who visited Abba many times these past few weeks, holding his hand, laughing with him, and treating him like a son and me like a sister. Thank you to Stephen Sachs. He's not in Israel. He wanted to come. I know you wanted to come. And he poked and prodded Abba with his magic needles throughout the years, and he eased his pain many times. But this time the pain was just too much. Daniel Youngerwood, who helped Abba and Shalamis so much these past years, Abba always trusted your medical opinion above any other. Aviad Tabori, thank you for treating Abba like your own father, carrying on the Masoret of incredibly close friendship and re'ut that my Abba and your Abba shared. In the moments before he died, as Mom and I held his hand, I told Abba that he's going to meet Binyamin in Olam Haba, and what a great reunion that would be. He would also finally be reunited with his Ima, who he lost so young, when he was so young, and with David Applebaum, and with so many others. Shalamis, thank you for all the love and affection you bestowed on Abba throughout all these years. The years he spent with you were no doubt the happiest of his life. The family, incredible family that the two of you blended together is a beautiful one, with so many grandchildren and Baruch Hashem, that we all got to enjoy the whole family at the wedding, at Zvir and Adi's wedding. Like my namesake Sakta Libby, Abba's mother, Abba was a poet. He published 3 beautiful poetry books. In perhaps this poem, he placed a few lines from a Gallery Kinnell poem, one of his favorite poets. It's a poem that he read at Rabbi Elazar Tetz's funeral just 7 months ago when he stood here himself. And he got it. But an incarnation isn't particular flesh, and the dust that is swirled into a shape and crumbles and is swirled again had but one shape. That was this man. When he is dead, the grass heals what he suffered, but he remains dead, and the few who loved him know this until they die. I want to end with Yom Kippur night. Anybody who has had the zchut to be in the yeshiva in the past 25, 30 years could hear Abba teach Hilchos Tshuva, the last parak, on Yom Kippur night. And Shalamis and I had many, many occasions to sit together. She would always put the mechitza aside, and we would be the only 2 women listening. And I have many, many, many copies of this page, which Abba still would do every year, cut and paste, in the old-fashioned way, right? And he would end with a Shir Shirim Rabbah about Rabbi Yochanan, who was Mikhail, V'Slik Mitzvah L'Tziporin. And Rabbi Chia Abba was accompanying him. And they passed by a farm, and Rabbi Yochanan said, "This was my farm, but I sold it so that I could learn Torah." And they passed by a kerem, and Rabbi Yochanan said, "This used to be mine, but I sold it so I could learn Torah." And on, Abba would make the story go on and on. You can't do that. And when Rabbi Chia cries to Rabbi Yochanan, he says, "But why did you sell everything? You don't have anything for your old age. You didn't leave anything for yourself." Amar lo Chia bni, ונתלזו בעיניך מה שעשיתי שמכרתי דבר שניתן ל6 ימים, שנאמר כי 6 ימים עשה השם, אבל התורה ניתנה ל40 יום, שנאמר ויהי שם עם השם 40 יום. And when Rabbi Yochanan died, היזורו קורא עליו, אם ייתן איש את כל הון ביתו באהבה, שאהב רבי יוחנן את התורה. Abba loved the Torah just like Rabbi Yochanan. He loved it. And Abba would say that the pasuk in Shir Shirim, אם ייתן איש את כל ביתו הון ביתו באהבה, בוזי הבוזי לו, is not read correctly. It should be read, אם ייתן איש את כל הון ביתו באהבה, בוז יבוזו לו. Could such a man be denigrated? Abba gave everything for the love of Torah, for the love of his children, for the love of his wife. אם ייתן איש את כל הון ביתו באהבה, בוז יבוזו לו.
Next, we're hear from Seth, Shulamis' son-in-law, who would like to share his words in memory of Zaidi.
As I'm sure you've heard by now, Zaidi would certainly not appreciate long funeral speeches. Have appropriate cover for Mason for sure, he would say. A cover for those who are living, that's what the Torah preaches. Zaidi was a big Talmid Chacham. He often quoted paragraphs of the Rambam by heart. His shiurim were so fascinating and deep, it was hard to remember from where he did start. His list of verbatim was illustrious. Of some of the basic of our first one, are two that come to mind. If I had to list all his kavrusas, from scholars to students in less than an hour, I'd be in a terrible bind. It's a true proud how you were able to become such a Talmid Chacham, despite struggling through your own time-consuming personal trauma. Your learning and mitzvahs are raising children single-handedly, dismissed the prevailing svara for why women are part of her mitzvah Hashem, says my grandma. And to think how many people are now frum and live Torah life simply because of your teaching. Your positive influence on so many Talmidim and their families, it's hard to even fathom how far-reaching. He and I were indeed very similar. I would dare say 2 peas in a pod. We always knew what the other was thinking. All it took was a simple nod. We both liked to learn, loved good stories, and shared a passion for poetry and sports. While he did the 3 Mamash till the end, it's been a while since he's been on the courts. He was a model father-in-law, Zaidi, always there for anything his children needed. He also was the most prepared person for every situation, hence his advice we always heeded. I'm not exaggerating when I say the 26 plus years I've known Zaidi, we never had even one fight. And trust me, it wasn't because that's my nature. It's just that he always seemed to do everything right. I always had this perception that Zaidi lived life as a rich man, but a Rebbe salary meant I knew the reality. But somehow he never worried about money. He handled everything with amazing calmness and congeniality. I really could go on and on, but it's not the time. Yet there's one additional thing I must say, or I'd be remiss. There's one individual you love and appreciate more than anything, and that was Zulay Shlomis. I know it's Zaidi's comforted that we both learn from this example and plan to take care of Bubby even more. We hope to make you proud, Zaidi, all of your children and grandchildren who you absolutely love to adore. Of course, I need to mention how wonderful a wife Bubby was to Zaidi. I hope my wife Esther paid attention. It's probably not the time to be selfish, so I wrote that last line with a healthy dose of apprehension. One last comment to point out is how amazingly Esther Lee, Noam, and Moshe cared for their Abba. And you and your families continue to bring Zaidi nachas, as he was the ultimate Saba. Zaidi, if we ever didn't give you the proper comfort, I beg for forgiveness, as you truly deserve the best. Please be a Mitz Yosher for Bobby and all of us. We will let Hashem take care of the rest. We love you and miss you already.
We'll now hear from Akiva, Shlomis' son, who would like to share a few words.
It's hard to believe. Just last night, Chum and I went to Herzog. So it almost felt like a routine visit with the Shabbos, find out how the Shabbos went. Thinking, trying to plan what's going to be for Rosh Hashanah, what's going to be, get back home, down the road. Now, it's such a different situation right now. Pretty soon, we'll be heading to Har Hazeisim after the Stadium. And for our family, and welcome in Har Hazeisim, had such an impact. Safe to say that around 32 years ago, Bobby Basio was a little shotgun. Bobby Basio is Hakamas Natseva. Bobby, Sadie Tovik were there. But Vassar brought them together in order to go ahead and really blend the families together. Zedi David had such an impact, such an indelible impact on every aspect of the broader Tights, Resnick, Grossman, Salzman, the Shpacha, father and grandfather, the whole family. Truth is that the connection to the Tights Mishpacha didn't just start then. Zedi used to say over that one of the first European Rabbanim that he came into contact with, he was so impressed by, was when he was in 8th grade, and he was trying to figure out the school to go to, so he took an interview at JC, and he went into Zedi Pinchas's office. It's the first time he met with Tights. He said he was someone who took up the entire room. He was someone that he was blown away by. And that relationship and that appreciation was something that he carried with him throughout the years. Actually becoming his son-in-law. But Zedi David was a person who was able to hold together a tension of opposites. Someone whose background came from Brisk and Galicia. Someone who, on one hand, when he was there at Yisrael, he was learning in Merkaz Harav, but going to hear shmuzim from Chaim Shalevis here. So much so, just recently when I went to visit Zedi and Shari Tzedek, I had a Gemara Avodah Zarah in my hand. Zedi looked at it and he said, "Oh, Avodah Zarah." So it brings back the memories of when I was spent that winter's man in Merkaz Harav. I was learning with Chaim Soloveitchik, Moshe Ber's son, and we were learning the studies of Yain Nesach. That went on to be the doctorate that Zedi, together with Chaim Soloveitchik, had a major role in putting out. And he preached the fact that I told him that recently I was in America. I went to a shir in Tribeca from the school of Bornstein, and he was discussing the studies of Yain Nesach. The Daf was in Avodah Zarah. And I told him, happened to be that he was discussing Yain Nesach, 3 different levels of it, and he was saying that in order to really appreciate Yain Nesach, there's this unbelievable book you have to go through. And I don't know if Dr. Chaim Soloveitchik on Yain Nesach, and he used a lot of different pieces. And it brought a big smile to Zedi's face, the fact that they were able to bring together the Lakewood Daf Yomi together with Chaim Soloveitchik's dissertation on Yain Nesach. Was that he said, if I get to see my good friend Chaim again, I'm going to let him know about this spreading of his Torah through the Lakewood Daf Yomi. But he had this ability to go ahead and always hold together this tension of opposites. And speaking of Chaim Shalevis, I used to talk about the biography about Chaim Shalevis. It was known as Moach B'Lei. And that's very much what defined Zedi David. It was the combination of the Moach B'Lei, the unbelievable intellect, but at the same time that ability to be caring, interested, no matter what level a person was on, he was interested in what they had to say. He was an unbelievable combination of Moach B'Lei. He talked about the Moach, he talked about the intellect. And I think very much defined who said he was, the storm that he lived with. But that's what he mentioned, the Rambam. Any Rambam, but especially the Rambam. Sefer Mada. Recently, when you take it off, you want to write a Sefer on the Rambam and Sefer Mada. And within Sefer Mada, there'll be Hilchas Tshuva. And you always talk about the fact that there are 10 truckim. The Rambam says Hilchas Tshuva. It's a good minhag. It's going for Rosh Hashanah, and there's Tshuva to go through a parak a day of the Rambam and Hilchas Tshuva. Until you got to the culmination. And Yom Kippur, Parak Yud, But the Rambam also in the Perek Yolacha Bei says, he's describing what Avodas Hashem is supposed to look like, which he very much defines, where he conducted himself. He wasn't doing, the Rambam says he has to be Avodah Hashem for other purposes, for ulterior motives. Rather, he's supposed to be Oses HaEmes, V'deishu HaEmes, the Sof HaGula Lavo. That was something where he conducted himself his entire life. He was Oses HaEmes, V'deishu HaEmes. He wasn't thinking about the kavod, he wasn't thinking about money, he wasn't thinking about any other things. It was Oses HaEmes, V'deishu HaEmes. He loved the Torah, he loved to give over the Torah, he loved to teach Torah. It was also Sam's Deishuamis, the Sof HaGula Lavo. That's the next Rambam. The Avos Hashem. There's no Ava that's comparable to the Ava itself. The Avos Hashem, and the entire Shir is a mashal, like the Lady said. From the Pasuk of Shubi Shubi. Another sefer connected to this Indian of Oses HaEmes V'deishu HaEmes is the sefer the Sfas Emes. It was the sefer that Zaidi lived by. Sfas Emes, the man of Torah that Zaidi taught. Sfas Emes, the man of Chavrusas that he had. You got a shir you can find online, the Sfas Emes. Just this past Erev Shabbos, I wanted to share with Zaidi the Sfas Emes I saw in Kisei Tzei. I went to Herzog, but right at the time Zaidi was sleeping. I think it was a Sfas Emes that also captures a lot some of these essence of Zadig. But the Sfas Emes speaks about, he has to steer up. And I'm speaking about the mitzvah of Khan Tzipor, Shluch HaKhan, the mitzvah itself of Osir Espino. The Medrash says that these mitzvahs show HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Rachmanos on the Bria, not just on Bnei Adam, but also on Behemoths and Oifos. It's a stira. The Gemara Brachos elsewhere says, "Homer HaKhan Tzibur Pirach Hamecha B'Shaskin Osa." It's not Rachmanos. It's going to be a stira. It says the Sfas Emes. The Sfas Emes explains, as Zaidi used to say, he used to love the Sfas Emes. In fact, a few years ago, Zaidi said, "I want to give you a present. And obviously, the present I'm going to give you is going to cost you money, though." He gave me a copy on Shmos of the new Sfas Emes with the Horus. He gave it just to be on Shmos. He said, after you get to learn Shmos, you're going to have to buy the rest. You're going to want to buy the rest after you taste what it's like on Shmos, you're going to want to buy the rest. But over there in Varid, like you say, the Sfas Emes says, since the stira, he resolves it by saying that when it comes to the nature of people, is that you can only be merachim on something that you connect to, the das, you understand them. You can't really understand them, you can't really be merachim on them. So when it comes to the animal kingdom, we can't really go ahead and be merachim, say that we're probably merachim with the brias. We can't connect to them. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has the ability to connect to all brias, no matter what they're up to, to be able to connect, and therefore by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's shaykh merachim. But by us, by Ben Adam, B'derech Klal, by Malachim towards Bnei Adam, by Bnei Adam, you can't really connect. I think Zaidi had that ability to see through poetry, the depth that he had, he's able to connect to so many different things that other people weren't able to connect to. He's able to understand things with such havana. Aviad said, he's been teaching them for 20 years, he still doesn't fully understand. He's sure of that, so. Zaidi had a certain depth that he had, the ability to understand, the ability to be merachim, and connect with all the different types of bria, all elements of the bria, all different types of people. And by way of that, he was able to really go ahead and impact on so many talmidim, impact on so many people. And his shurim are there as the legacy that he left. Finish off yesterday. Basi and Eliza, when they walked over to Herzog, spend time with Zaidi. Zaidi's eyes lit up. There's such a special connection that he had. He felt it, especially the family, all the children, grandchildren. Basi shared with him a point that he used to say over a lot. Here we have Yemesha Sinavai with Shimon Shana, the Gvura Shana, the Bikur Shmonim Shana, Zaydi just reached the Guras, Shmonim. But he used to always tell his Talmidim and Elul at the beginning of the year, he used to snap. He used to say, it's the beginning of the year, snap, but it's going to go so quick. That's what we have. Despite all the experiences that we had together with Zaidi, all the impact we had on so many different people, but it's been just like a snap. It's just going to snap, it went so quick, and we want to hold on to it, we want to have more time. And those are the words that Zaidi said as the grandchildren were leaving. I enjoyed the visit so much. I hope to come back again. We can just end with those words. Zaidi, we enjoyed you so much. We hope you can come back again. He's amazing. Or if you can get Nachas from the whole family. If you had all the chassidus in Mitzvah, they'll be coming up soon, Bez Hashem, with all the grandchildren. We want to go ahead and share something more Divrei Torah, some good experiences together. He's amazing to come.
I'd like to invite Aviad Tabori, the son of Binyamin Tabori Alav Shalom, who was Zaidi's closest and dearest friend for over 50 years.
I want to start with a Karat Tov, personal Karat Tov. The Ebner called me many years ago and offered me to teach Yeshivat Eretz Tzvi. And thanks. I'm speaking here representing many different people. First of all, I'm representing my Abba, who was mentioned before, Rabbi Binyamin, who was a dear friend of Rabbi Ebner. I'm also representing here many Talmidim from Amiftar, from Eretz Tzvi, who love Rabbi Ebner so much. I hope he realizes, now for sure realizes, how much love they loved him. Rabbi Ebner was a chaver. In the case of my Abba, he showed what a real chaver is all about. A true chaver. I want to mention, my Ima told me before, make sure you don't talk about Abba, you talk about David. Talk about David. But when Abba was very sick, and he went into an operation, and he didn't know if he was coming out of the operation, he told us afterwards, when he came out, he said the following. He said, Abba had two very close friends growing up, David and Heshi. And Heshi died very young. And Abba said that when he went into the operation, and he didn't know if he was coming out alive or not, he said he knew one thing, that when the operation is over, he'll either see Heshi or David. And sure enough, he came out. Nobody was sitting. He was the most loyal friend that Abba had. Since we were kids, he was our mishpach. I mentioned today Noam's, David's drasha at Noam's bar mitzvah. We know how old we are. When David came to visit Saba, my father, the Shulamis, they were there all the time. They would just sit and look at my father, and they didn't need to speak. One word was just enough. A whole conversation would go between their eyes. That was enough. They were so close that they understood each other's, even a joke. It's like a number. They knew the joke. They knew the pun. They knew whatever it was. And it was a Dvar Torah. They just said a daf, a Gemara, a Rishon. That was it. The whole thing was like the regular Torah. They didn't have to explain everything. It was just one word here, and they got each other. The charifut of David, the pikchut, was so much overwhelming sometimes. I apologize, David. When I used to nod my head when you read a poem. I didn't understand what you were saying. I did try to read your poems. I really did. Ebner is mentioning the Bitan Chacham, but his Torah was very different. It was a mizug of different worlds of Torah that came together. It's very hard to understand where those worlds came together. The world of Chassidut and Musar and Rav Hutner and poetry. And Rabbi Ebner used to say that when he went to London, he loved going to the museums because he knew that he wouldn't bump into any other rabbi there. He loved art and poetry. He was so original, so unique, and so different in the way he brought all those worlds together. I was imagining if David had to give a hesped right now. He was an artist. And when I told the students this morning, when he was good, wow, he was so good. When he was like, when he gave a hesped or a sichat, musar, he was like an actor. And he would imitate, and he would play out the voice, and it was just mesmerizing, seeing him there act out the sikha, the drasha, the hesped. He touched so much of us, so many talmidim around the world. I called a few of them before. They're crying all over the world. People told me they're trying to get to Israel, to come, to show their love to Rabbi Ebner. How much they love him. And finally, Rabbi Ebner is Olam HaEmet. And as was mentioned, I believe Emet was one of his strongest midot. It was so strong that it was overwhelming. I remember years ago when Rabbi Ebner gave a sicha after mincha from some Kotzker Torahs. I don't know where he got this from. And it was so him. The emes of Kotzk was so him. It was like I said, overwhelming. He got emet, almost like a navi, speaking out the truth when no one else was. It was sometimes hard to hear, but it was who he was. I think I speak in the name of many of us who are so in shock. No one saw this coming. I mean, at least many of us are in total shock. We're gathering our thoughts and our feelings. Our heart goes out to the family, who Rabbi Ebner, by the way, you should know from the outside, he loved you guys so much, and he was so proud of his grandchildren. He used to brag about them, by the way, and tell stories about them. And Shulamis and the family, he just loved the family so much, and he loved the Talmud very much. And we're going to all miss him very, very much.
Thank you to each of you for sharing your words and memories. Through your voices, we continue to carry Zaydi's legacy of love, strength, Torah, and kindness. May his memory forever be a blessing to all who know him. From here, we will make our way to Har HaZeitim. There's one bus. Please make preference for the family. Thank you, everybody. תכף מגיעים חברי הגדישה ואנחנו נסיים כאן ונעבור על הר הזיתים. מקום רק רגע.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Dayan Amen.
Yisrael, Yisrael, Shnei Dikoshav, Wihu, Elam Yinkol, Yechasav, Yishrasav, Yishmachasav, Nechmasav, Yamiran, V'Alav, Yibru, Amen. Al Yisrael, Al Rabbanan, Al Tamidehu, Al Kol Tamidehu, Askin, Raisa, Kachot, Yehei Lanu, Lahon, Lachon, Ina, Lechista, Rachmei, Kadam, Me'alei, Shaya, V'Ara, Yibru, Amen. Yehei Shlom, Alav, Amin, Shemaya, V'Chayim, V'Sov, V'Yishua, V'Nechama, V'Shefra, V'Fura, V'Ula, V'Slicha, V'Kafara, V'Yelach, V'Atzala, Manu, L'Chol, L'Chol, Yisrael, V'Yibru, Amen. עושה שלום בעולם, יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל.
ישראל חייב לצאת בדרכה להר הזיתים, נסיעת המיטה. משפחה, ידידים.
ניחום אבלים יהיה בין השעות 9 ל-1 ובין 3:30 ל-9 בימים ב', ג' וד' יושבים בעיר בגין אצל שולמיס, ובימים ה' ו' יושבים בבית משפחת קהילה ברחוב רב אשי 4-2. תודה רבה רבה.